Weasel. Just watch the video.
So like L-E.
Yeah, we're getting the podcast off to a rousing start. When is Kevin McAllister getting his Nobel Peace Prize?
Oh, I thought he'd get it for physics.
For his innovations in descending stairs on a sled, we award the Nobel Prize in Physics to Kevin McAllister.
Or there's maybe something around some combination of physics and medicine for being able to thwart robbers with nails, irons, paint cans, and they're largely unscathed at the end.
I would argue that that is the pursuit of peace.
I concede.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, see you next week, everybody.
We're just so anxious to get to 40. 39's a weird number, right?
Divisible by 3, but it sounds prime.
It's prime-ish. Which is a great cover band name.
Oh, that would be a good tribute act. I wonder if that's even a real thing. Where do you stand on Primus? I don't think we've ever talked about Primus. Did you have a phase?
On this show, we haven't, but we have talked a bit about Primus in that you really liked Primus until you met Primus fans.
That's true.
And you were like, I have to imagine you were similar to Homer calling GBM. I too enjoy Primus. But I don't enjoy that or that.
That's exactly how I felt. It was rough to realize that band that I just thought was goofy lyrics and complicated drum patterns was for stoners. In my world, they existed in like the Venn diagram circle of They Might Be Giants too. And I think I was the only one in that crowd that saw them that way.
I like to think that there are people that eclectic now, but this will sound old man ranty, but with the algorithm and whatnot, I just don't see that kind of naive diversity happening.
I'll take that.
It's sad because if you look at my CD book from right when my peak compact disc collection, and I was still very much listening to the things that I had been listening to while still collecting anything I could get my hands on. There's a lot of stuff that I was listening to that I might not have if I had known earlier that I wasn't allowed to listen to it.
You would have gotten there if you knew that Mother wouldn't approve.
Or even just people who lord credibility over you. Like, I could make a playlist of 30 songs. It wouldn't even have to be that long. 30 songs that I legitimately enjoy, and at least one song on that playlist, every person in my friend group today would be upset by. Like, I could quickly alienate everyone. Do you know what I'm saying? Does this make any sense?
Because you specifically, or everyone has some hot takes in music?
Oh, no, I'm not special at all. I'm just saying that generation was ignorant to the always up to the minute social and cultural connectivity of media. So if you are a quote metal person, you can like Metallica and Megadeth and Anthrax. But if you also like Evanescence, it's over.
Okay. So sounds like you're saying you're not afraid to bend the rules of what the culture deems acceptable to like. If you're a punk, these bands are legit and these bands are not legit. If you're a metal guy, these bands are metal, these bands are not metal. And you're not afraid to enjoy something that transgresses.
Right. And I suppose, as is often the case, this is just a very circuitous way for me to come back to reassuring you about your Venn diagram and say, those stoners who think that the nerdy They Might Be Giant stuff is for dorks are just as wrong as the uppity people who like silly They Might Be Giants music and who can't understand why Primus being silly is also great.
Okay.
It's basically... You can edit it to whatever length it actually ends up being, but let's call it 3 minutes of me doing Sonny appreciation.
Thank you. I need it.
Because if I were to place you in modern day, and the second you discovered Primus, you knew exactly what you were supposed to wear and like also, and the second you discovered They Might Be Giants, you knew what you were supposed to wear and like also, you might have only ended up liking one of them.
Culture's a tricky thing.
You were able to develop without the criticism.
Without the rules being told to me.
Right. You were able to define your own tastes.
What are our tastes, if not us, at least trying on those rules and seeing if we accept or reject them?
I don't think it's anything more than that. But if you have space to reject them, that's still possible. But if you don't have space to reject them, then you just come to find that that's your life now. So maybe in addition to thanking the larger culture, we should maybe even zoom in a bit and give a bit of praise to your support structure, whatever that may have been.
This is making it sound like I'm more noble than I really am. I think I am guilty of hearing those kinds of rules and falling victim to them and getting in my own way of enjoying some music that I would have admitted that I enjoyed or given a chance to much sooner. I'm thinking about just genres. I think there was a good bit of my life that just kind of I spent rejecting rap music because it just wasn't my radio station. And let's be honest, a lot of the rap that was on the radio for us was not good.
Fair.
And I didn't have anyone. I didn't grow up in a neighborhood where anyone had a De La Soul CD. Tribe Called Quest didn't show up for me anywhere. It was all Master P and P Diddy, various P's around Primus. Country music too. At some point, country music became the crap I had to listen to on the bus.
I dare anyone to move to Nashville and get a number one in country. Those songs are hard to make.
Okay. I will say, like I hear the country now, most like modern country, and it is definitely not for me.
But again, there's a craftsmanship there that you don't see in the quote unquote singer-songwriter circles, where they might rely more on cred because they might not actually be able to write something as catchy.
As honky tonk badunkadonk.
You know what? I'm going to do my own very Googling. I would like to see how many Spotify streams that song has. Would you like to guess?
Out of the blue. I'm not even sure I have a good reference. I'm going to say, I could be wildly off. I'm going to say 68 million.
Every bit of that Sonny praise was justified. 67.8 million.
You're
rounded,
kidding.
It is 68.
Jerod, this is an audio podcast. I have no proof of this, but you heard no clicking over here. You can check my very Google history. I'm just guessing out of the blue.
I just think you and Trace Adkins have a kindred spirit, so you can kind of perceive each other, not only in spirit, but in chart position.
Yeah, he knows how many streams the Home Alones have, too.
And you know what's great about the Home Alones?
We only play songs about the movie Home Alone.
Great film.
I agree.
Are there any minutes of that film that you've watched recently that you feel like are maybe underappreciated?
Now that you mention it, I'd like to zoom in on one in particular, the 39th.
I was waiting for you to say 68. What happens in the 39th minute?
Man, I don't know. Just kidding. I do know. We're picking up on Harry and Marv burgling the Murphy home. They get a phone call. Answer machine picks it up. It's Peter McAllister, the father, asking Chuck Murphy, heard anything, if he could go check on Kevin, reminding him that he's in Paris. This alerts the wet bandits to the McAllister home actually being unoccupied. Silver Tuna tonight. We cut to a drugstore where Kevin McAllister, the child, is buying a toothbrush. He couldn't find his and asking if it's approved by the American Dental Association. And the clerk does not know.
Well summarized.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you heard Chuck as well, because I listened back to that minute a few times, and I don't know if this is one of those like Laurel situations, but I hear Chuck and Jack.
Captions say Chuck. Script says Chuck. Going with Chuck. Chuck Murphy.
I appreciate you confirming that, because that's, like I say, that's what I guess say heard in my memory. And then
somewhere in your memory.
But then when I heard Jack, it's like, wait, have I just been hearing that wrong? So thank you for that.
So Chuck is short for Charles. So
Charlie Murphy.
He's Charlie Murphy. Mitch Murphy's dad is Charlie Murphy.
This changes everything somehow. I don't know how, but it does. So Peter, the father, says that he's calling again. So It sounds like maybe he called Chuck in his rotation already and either didn't leave a message or left a message while he was at the airport and didn't know where they were going to be, but he's now posted up at his brother's apartment.
He
so
says
they're
still in Paris. So implying that the last phone call maybe suggested that they're possibly getting on a plane.
Right.
But he's letting him know, still in Paris. Here's the phone number. It all works. It all fits.
And that's kind of what I'm highlighting. Like, this isn't really the sexy part about storytelling, because there are some times when the puzzle pieces slide into place and you're just like, ooh, nice. But just little things like this, the world building, the timetables, it's nice. You know, he's saying, hey, the country code is 33. Just little stuff that is just very natural.
What I like about this is that they avoid and maybe they are using the fake phone number, like the 555. Maybe.
Yeah, does France have their own version of that?
Maybe 694 is the fake phone number for France. But I like how they get out of that problem by having Marv talk over the answering machine when he delivers the very end of the phone number.
Yep.
It's a real subtle way to keep that. Movies always have to do tricky things to avoid the 555 silliness. And this is a clever move.
That said, it really only gives you, I guess, 10 possible choices, because I think there's only one number you can't hear prior to that 4 at the end.
Oh, okay.
So you could just go through 0 through 9, but your point is still valid. I want to say it was Bruce Almighty. There was some film of that time that had an actual phone number in it that turned out to be a problem for the owner of that number. I remember at the time being newsworthy.
It's like whoever had the actual 8675309 number.
Right.
If I can give some props to Daniel Stern here, he does some really good face acting, listening to the answering machine and hearing the name McAllister and it dawning on him that that's the house they got scared away from last night. There's a lot of good face work being done here.
Right. It's not a answering machine line. Hey, was that the McAllisters line? He's developing that. You really see him build to the question he asks.
Yeah, it works really well. While Harry is fascinated by this kaleidoscope.
I was about to say, is this a yearbook shout out?
That was the name of my first book publication. I've since moved on to the Olympian. Yearbooks always have stupid names like that. I saw one today. It was called Eye of the Phoenix.
Are you able to name and shame whoever that is?
No, it's not a local.
It's local to someone.
Well, yeah. Isn't everything?
Think about it. Maybe your next book will be called Silver Tuna Tonight.
Silver Tuna is the name of my Wi-Fi network.
Even though it's called Silver Tuna, would it still work to call it a red meat?
Is silver tuna red meat?
Not in the colloquial sense, but in the technical sense.
Yeah, I try to avoid red meat. No beef, no tuna.
Well, I just kept thinking about like silver tuna, the other white meat. And then I kept thinking about how like, sushi grade tuna is red.
Oh, yeah.
Like I think a lot of people are used to tuna that's been desaturated and canned and is very pale and gray, but really high quality tuna is quite red.
Silver Tuna Tonight.
And you know what? I don't know where this assumption is coming from, but I had always just assumed that silver tuna meant like the scales, like it's a, but I actually don't know if that's right.
I don't either. Google silver tuna. It was my favorite team on Legends of the Hidden Temple, the Silver Tunas. The top hit for Silver Tuna is the Home Alone subreddit.
Do you think us mentioning that subreddit here makes it noteworthy and newsworthy enough for us to post this episode in the Home Alone subreddit?
I think I hopped on the Home Alone subreddit when we first started doing this and just said, hey, you got a podcast, here you go. And no traction over there.
It wasn't newsworthy at that point. Whereas right now that we're mentioning their subreddit, you know what? Let's not give them the attention. They haven't earned that because they didn't get the SEO. Reddit did.
All the stuff all the top Google hits for Silver Tuna are Home Alone related. There's a Silver Tuna tattoo and piercing in Appleton. So yeah, I don't know if Silver Tuna is like a species that seems to be like a John Hughes coined phrase.
Silver coins.
We're eating silver tuna tonight, robbing the really nice house.
Just to go back even further, him being so self-assured about them not being there, he's like, I knew.
Oh, I love it. I knew they were. I like it.
Like he's good at what he does.
Yeah. They're bumbling criminals, but Harry is pretty good at what he does. And his gut here was correct.
People often cite Michael Scott's competence as a salesman as the reason why The Office works, because he can be an idiot, but also still quite good at his job. And I would say the same is true for Home Alone type films that, in my mind, don't actually exist. But we can talk about hypothetically. Let's say there were other Home Alone films beyond 1 and 2 that had cat burglars who were not even good at being cat burglars. Harry's good. He's got something.
Yeah, I think throughout the movie, he's got good ideas. Dressing up like a police officer and going door to door and having all the families tell you when they're going out of town. The automatic timers are going off for their lights. Pretty savvy criminal mastermind.
Savvy enough that the police actually take pride in booking them. We're getting out of ourselves.
We are.
Why did I say we? As if to blame you for my mistake.
We're in this together.
Then come along with me on this journey. Close your eyes and think about the last time you saw Kodak film for sale.
I think I'm at Kmart, but maybe I'm just confusing Kmart and Kodak.
A Little Caesar's fever dream.
It's a good band name.
When this scene cut to this shop and we see a bunch of Kodak film on display for sale, it just struck me as very odd because we've obviously seen a lot of things in this film that are dated.
An answering machine?
Right. That's precisely the example I was going to use. But it doesn't feel so anachronistic to this playing out today.
I think even kids these days would be able to understand what's going on there. Phone rings, a thing picks it up. They even show you a shot of the machine, like the answer machine. So you kind of piece it together. Yeah, what do you do with that film? What are those little yellow boxes behind the drugstore clerk?
I think maybe that's it. That's the pang that I can't quite identify, or maybe couldn't until now, is that through lens blur, I can make out what is being sold.
Yeah. And there's not a display. It's just a weird stack of film.
Right.
Boxes, those yellow Kodak boxes.
Which were so distinct. Which is why it was immediately recognizable, but also just so jarring to be like, what happened? That was just there.
Not to jump around a little bit too much, but the transition from the Murphy house to the drugstore is incredible. And I think it's the only time the movie does anything like it. Harry's looking in the kaleidoscope.
It's the only, sophisticated wipe, you mean?
Yeah, he's satisfied that he's right about the McAllisters being gone. Silver tuna tonight. And then we cut to his view into the kaleidoscope. So we get this kaleidoscopic, rotating, geometric, prism-y kind of stuff. And that dissolves into the drugstore.
Is that transition in the script?
No, not at all. Him looking at a kaleidoscope is not in the script. The dialogue is in there, but him looking through the kaleidoscope, the car, the action of Marv throwing stuff into a bag with a crowbar, that's in the script, but he's not wearing a new pair of goggles.
A snorkel?
Yeah. So they did add some stuff. The cat burglar line is not in the script.
I really want some inside baseball on that kaleidoscope because, like you said, that's a very clear transition. We are seeing perspective into a kaleidoscope, and something might have been fashioned custom to get that very shot.
I think you can get a camera lens into the kaleidoscope viewfinder pretty easily, but maybe not.
I guess I'm more just saying the level of effort and setup to get that
when you could just dissolve. Yeah,
right.
That's why I think it's a really interesting move. Don't see it. It's definitely the first interesting transition visually that we've seen in the movie so far. We got some ironic cuts and some humorous music cues and stuff like that, but nothing this visually creative.
Right, which I think is why I'd venture a guess that even if you are a director looking for a bit of B-roll and a couple of angles and things to get to just use later, you're not going to do that shot, right? Because a lot of directors, especially directors who have been through a couple of edits, who are kind of working backward from something, they'll often do these like lingering shots on something, or a big wide that they'll hold on for a while, or let's follow this particular path of this toy car, whatever those things are, right? It's very conscious effort to get to Harry's view of Kaleidoscope.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it.
Yeah, let's get somebody on to figure out who that was. AD, maybe?
Yeah, you do wonder if it's a happy accident that comes to them on set, that they just find a kaleidoscope and sort of maybe Joe Pesci himself invents this opportunity. Maybe it's something that Chris Columbus came up with. By the way, I hope you enjoyed your Chris Columbus Day.
I watched Home Alone.
Man, I watched Mrs. Doubtfire.
I know.
We always remember the reason for the season.
Everyone keeps telling me that Daniel Radcliffe is a good person, and I incline to believe them, but I just don't like those Harry Potter movies.
That's okay.
So it's not like I don't support.
You
support
the troops, not the war.
Exactly.
You like Emma Watson, just you don't like Potter movies.
Like, I'll go buy a DVD or something just so it'll add to the bottom line, but they're not for me. Sorry, Chris.
I like that you're referring to supporting Daniel Radcliffe when J.K. Rowling's probably the more controversial figure there. The idea of getting you on tape of saying, I mean, I'll buy Harry Potter DVDs to support the cause. I don't like the movies. I just appreciate what the woman believes in.
I don't know what it says about me that I didn't even think about that.
You're a pure soul.
Or oblivious, maybe?
Maybe.
Because I was so caught up in Chris Columbus, and part of the reason I had a issue with the Weird Al movie was Daniel Radcliffe as well. I don't have anything personally against him, but something about him on film just doesn't work for me.
Okay.
So I think that's where I was focused.
Oh, have you seen his TV show?
No.
Really good.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Miracle Workers.
Excellent. I will cue that up.
Yeah, please do.
I'm just going to stay in this zone to take on the heat of any criticism toward actors, and I'll just continue rolling right along to, in this scene in the shop, we see Jimmy stalking in the back, and we see him look in his periphery toward the camera.
No, Jimmy, stop that, boy.
Just put a comma there and changes the whole thing.
It's like Lionel Hutz. No, money down.
You see this like hesitation where it looks like he might have thought they yelled cut, but they didn't.
Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I don't have anything to say yet because I'm not going to get ahead of myself.
You got some thoughts for next minute?
I do. Maybe even the minute after.
Okay.
I'm just trying to mentally gauge where some things pop up.
How much
is that doggy in the window?
How much do you trust the American Dental Association?
Less and less every day.
They used to be such a reputable association.
Yeah, when this was filmed, they were, I think, an institution that people could get behind, but people have lost faith.
We got a clean house.
Yeah, this is a swamp draining opportunity, right? Drain the sink.
I'm on the American Dental Association's website.
Can you find out if the Colgate Plus toothbrushes are approved?
The ADA Seal of Acceptance has been the leading mark of dental product safety and efficacy for 93 years.
Is leading synonymous with only in this case?
Do you think there's a competitor in the Association of Dentist product endorsements?
Are they continental? When they say American Dental Association, does that cover the Americas, or is there a Canadian one?
Canadian Dental Association. Thank you, Google, for auto-completing, knowing where my brain's going. There's a Canadian Dental Association. They have a dental aptitude test. The CDA also has a SEAL program. They celebrated its 50th anniversary 2 years ago.
Does their store have any books about dental office compliance?
I don't see a store tab. Some resources.
Nightmare.
Well,
maybe I spoke too soon, though, because if it's resources, maybe they're just giving it away.
You know, the ADA website is making a pretty convincing case that you do need a seal. Back in your mid to late 1800s, you had a lot of products claiming to be toothpaste, for example, that didn't really clean your teeth.
Propaganda.
Today, more than 400 over-the-counter dental products sold to consumers carry the ADA seal of acceptance.
But again, Colgate plus toothbrushes. We need an answer.
Members of the ADA's Council on Scientific Affairs review submissions for adherence to product category requirements. When necessary, the council utilizes consultants with specific area expertise. The consultants represent all fields relevant to evaluating dental products, including dental materials, microbiology, pharmacology, toxicology, and chemistry. Only after a product has demonstrated its safety and efficacy will the ADA Council on Scientific Affairs award the seal.
All right. Well, we need the seal for the podcast.
You can email adaseal@ada.org. I think we should be the first podcast to have the ADA seal of acceptance.
I'll draft something up this evening.
I only see Colgate toothpastes. See if I can search for it by toothbrush. There's a whole list of product categories, which are kind of funny to me. Athletic mouth guards, dry mouth relief, emergency tooth preservation, powered toothbrushes, manual tooth... Oh, it wasn't under toothbrushes. It was under manual toothbrushes. Jerod, I am sad to say that Colgate has no manual toothbrushes approved by the American Dental Association in this year, 2024.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
I don't have a history here. I think it's safe to say that Colgate doesn't make the kind of toothbrush Kevin McAllister's looking for.
But there's a bit of a mini arc as we see this store clerk interacting with child who's stepping up into maturity.
Mm-hmm.
Because when she says, "How may I help you?" I don't get the sense that she's actually interested in helping.
She's pretty dismissive of Kevin, and it's not the only time we see this in the movie. Every adult treats him like a joke.
Yeah.
She's got like this, "Oh, isn't this cute? This little boy's got a question for me. This little boy wants to buy a Tootsie Roll with his own chore money."
And she's not ready to greet customers because she's clearly doing some other task. She's writing something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think she seems surprised and maybe even delighted, just marginally, by the fact that he's not asking about a Tootsie Roll. He's in fact asking what he believes is what the man of the house would be asking.
Yeah. If I'm going to buy a toothbrush, I'm going to make sure that it's approved by the American Dental Association.
I love this journey he's on. He's like, I'm going to wash all of my crevices. I'm going to do some thorough research on all of my dental peripherals. And I think she's not taken aback by that, but the way that she responds after hearing that is very different than her initial greeting.
She answers him in a way that she thinks the conversation's over.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say, "Hun, buy it or not," with the information you have, which I got to say is how I approach most investigations in my own life. I wonder something, a cursory look into it yields no results, and I just move on. Jerod, I got to say that my wife does not take that same cavalier approach.
No. She and I are kindred spirits in that we both have metaphorical tabs open for years.
You've got a, well, can you look? Can you find out? And I've got a classic Kevin McAllister shrug for the unanswered question.
Yeah, I often channel a bit of Han on Hoth and be like, "What do you mean nobody knows? Why don't you find out?"
Yeah, I'm okay with some mystery in my world.
Got to seek that capital T truth, the capital T tuna.
That's just what Big Dentist wants you to do.